So this is all about USB dongles, specifically memory dongles, and also memory cards. So memory cards that you would use in your phone and potentially in a drone, and other devices where video is quite heavy, or you could use it in a camera that has quite a lot of burst photography, so a Canon camera. So anyway, we'll go into that. I've just been a sucker for buying all these blooming things. I've got hundreds and hundreds of them. Some are really small in size in terms of the amount of data they'll hold. Some are reasonable size as well for larger files such as video files. And then there's a couple of one-off things, and I'll just explain what I've found out by testing these devices, okay? And I'll explain some of the things that happen with some of these devices that you purchase online rather cheap. These all came from Temu, okay, ranging in price between, like for example, this one, there's 10 USB dongles in there. I think it was £4. Alright, and then these ones were slightly more because they're a bigger size. There you go, more. I've got cards, micro SD cards, and the reader that comes with. Got another one which I'll go through. I've got this thing here which is a USB stick, and it's got a connector to go into, for example, an Android phone. Okay, explain because it's quite useful. I got quite a few of these. These are just standard SD card adapter readers. Plug them in. I got 4 or 5 of them because they're only £1.50. Can't go wrong, they work. So yeah, I always lose them, so I got a few of them, so I'll put them to one side, put that over there. Right, so the first good one is, I got this. Can I get the thing off? So this one plugs it. This is my Android phone that I'm recording with, because it's the size of the videos are much easier to handle on my software for post-production. So basically what it is it's just a dongle. It's got the USB connector, so that's for your computer. This one is the USB-C, so you plug that into your phone, and you have to use certain free software available online to be able to save your videos directly to this. It won't let you do it from the file structures that you see on the files system on your phone. Now it will see the directory, which is this, but it won't let you copy it over. You have to use a separate program to do that. Not hard to work out how to do that. You can ask a chat GTP, and it told me how to do it as well, so that explains it all. So what it does is it lets me transfer all my videos onto there, and then I can at leisure pop that into my PC, and I can download those from the stick nice and easy. You can just do it with a cable as well, but I like to be able to just get them on a stick, have them. That's that project for the moment, and then I know everything's on there. I can forget wires, because you know what wires are like with your laptops and stuff. I can just plug that on the side, transfer the files, and away you go. So really convenient. I think this was about £5, £4 something. It's worth its weight in gold to me. So yeah, very good. Now what I do with all these things, because of where they're made and the stories that you hear, I do check that they do actually do what they say they do, because you can get dongles and memory cards that either don't store the amount of data they say they store, and what happens is the system will kind of fool your computer thinking that this is a 64 gigabyte SD card, when in fact it might only be 4 gigabytes. And so you're storing all this stuff on there thinking great, and you dump put the files in the bin because you've had enough of it, and you think, there, it's all there, but it's gone. It'll either stop working at 4 gigabytes, or some of them will just keep overwriting, and eventually you've got nothing and you've lost your data. So I can test them with Windows programs that are freely available. Again, just do a search. There are one or two that I use, which is H2 Test W. It's an old program, but it's very, very straightforward. And what it does is it fills this up, or that up, or that up. It fills it up with data, and it increments the file names, and then it will go back and it will read those files, and it is able to tell whether the whole file is still there using checksums. So don't get too technical. It just basically fills the card or device up, and then it goes back and makes sure it's still there. And that's like your verification that the size of the disk is correct, or the card. So for example, this one is 128 gigabytes. Sounded very skeptical. Definitely there, it's all there. You know, you always get less than 128 gigabytes because of the way it's calculated, and then you've got a little bit of room for not operating systems, but operating functions. So instead of being 128, it's actually 124 or something like that. And the same happens with all the cards. So this one's fine, and this one can take 3 hours because of the size of the file structure on there. You know, so it is quite a long task, but it's important if you're wanting to save data. You don't want to lose it. The next thing that you get with cards, not only the size of the file structure, so as I say, 64 gigabytes on here, it's the class. Now this particular one here, which is this one here, it says it's class 3. Now class 3 is for things like drones, where you've got 4K super high quality images that need to be transferred in real time to the SD card. It doesn't have onboard memory as such. When you've got drones like the DJI Mavic Mini or the Pros or the other models, they need to write that information as quickly as possible to this particular card, if that's what it is. Now this one here, this one is 128 gigabyte, same as that, but a different form factor. It's a card. So anybody having a drone, they would put that in, and then they would be taking the drone shots, and they would be hoping at class U3 that it would be recording pretty fast, and then there'll be no corruption to the video. However, when I did my test, yes, it is 128 gigabytes, slightly less, I've already explained, but I used another program to test the write and read speed, and it is a genuine disk SD card, but it doesn't write at the speeds claimed on there. So a U3 should be writing at 30 megabits per second. Okay, and this actual one, even though it says it does, is only transferring 10 to 11 megabits a second. It varies slightly depending on how varied the file is and what its structure is made of. So it doesn't agree with what it says on the tin, if you like. Fine for storing stuff, for storing your files. Anything that you've done posts, such as made videos, and you want to store them on there, fine. And you can play them back from there, fine. All your documents, everything else that you want, photos, it'll store on there, and it's genuinely, this one is genuinely 128 gigabytes. However, if I was to use this in my drone or in my Canon EOS camera, which requires quick flash bursts of images to try and hopefully capture that magical moment, this will not be sufficient, because all that will happen is the camera will slow down, and by the time it's written on there, I'll have missed my next shot. I haven't tested it in the drone, but I suspect what will happen is it'll be all glitchy and you'll just miss the whole footage. So be wary when you're buying these. I mean, these were less than £4 for what they are. albeit they've got the wrong badge on. They are fine for the price. I'm quite happy that you've got 128 gigabytes. Again, it's a case of, do you store exactly all of your personal information that you don't want to lose on there? The answer is yes, but have a backup, or having 2 backups, 3, even 4. So that's my recommendation. These things vary in size. You know, they all look the same essentially. These are 4 gigabyte sticks. These were £5 odd, and I think there's 20 in there. I was a bit skeptical, but they passed the test. Not worried about the right speed. I just want to put things on there. So let's see, I'm working on a project, a video project, and rather than clouding all my folders up with stuff, I might just want to put my working files on there and work on these, make sure they're saved and you know, backed up. But each one of them could be 20, well, each one could be a project up to 20 different things. I did buy ones and I didn't realise the size of them and how small they were. And these ones here, again, they were quite cheap. I think they were about £3.50 for 10. And these passed the test. But they're only 128 megabytes. In reality, you're getting 124 megabytes, I beg your pardon. So megabytes, 124, is probably, well, a song, or a song would be about 3 to 5 MP3 size. So you'd get about 22, 23 songs on here. Ideal if you've got an in-car play stereo system and you want to make up playlists, your own playlist, and your wife and partner, your son, daughter, whatever, they could all have their own dongles. That would be sufficient for your playlist to get you at least 20 odd songs on. So yeah, and if you lose it, who cares? And then I got another set. These are 256, so they're double the size of them, and the strange thing is they're the same price. So it just depends which manufacturer's pushing their products into Temu. Yeah, so one thing I want to explain, this is going to be a one take video. I'm not even using my shutter, so it's working well. One of these dongles, I tested quite a few. I mean, obviously I haven't got time to test all of them. I just test a sample. If I really wanted to store something important on, I would test it as well. You can see that they're fairly robust, made of metal. You know, they don't rock like some. That's solid on there, so fine. But you've got to remember that what they are very good at doing is they are very good at repurposing memory. So they might have a supplier who has hundreds or 200 or 3 or maybe 1,000 phones that hasn't sold. They may be old phones and they don't know what to do with them. And what they do is, I'm not saying necessarily a phone, but they can take out the memory of those, and rather than sort of format them and get them to the original size, they just format the partitions to whatever. So that's why you see them at such small sizes. So 256 megabytes, granted it's not small, it's a quarter of a gigabyte, but certainly when you're getting down to the likes of 128 megabytes, there is a chance, I'm not saying it's true in these ones, but there is a chance that that the memory has been repurposed from another device that is no longer in sale, it didn't sell. So rather than throwing it away, what they do is they can repurpose the memory. And I'll give you an example of that. One of these ones, I was testing about 3 or 4 of them the other day, and one of them tested perfectly fine. When I plugged it in, it had an Android system on it. You know, if you ever take an SD card out of an Android phone or an iPhone and you pop it into a Windows card reader, like that. Especially the Android, because it all tends to stay on the card, and the file structure was all Android, and the name of presumably the phone system or whatever was Chinese. So it had things like movies, apps, photos. It all had them subdirectories already in. It hadn't been wiped or cleaned. But just to be aware that some of these are made up from old memory. And I've watched people online who have bought brand new micro PCs, or even Chromebook type things, or even the mini laptops, whatever. And when they go to check the cycle settings on the battery, some of them have been already cycled 300 or 400 times, which means it's been repurposed from an older machine that was either not was returned, not used, or it's second hand, and it's purporting to be a real memory. However, on reflection, they're fine, they are fine, they are fine, know exactly what to say. That's the only one at the moment that I could find in that bag that had the Android. Well, that was the only one type that had the Android system on. I laugh about it because it's quirky. It just tries and explains why things are so cheap. And oh, how can they do it so cheap? Well, what they do is they repurpose old stuff. And then these ones, these sort of mimic like a SanDisk type packaging. It's not a SanDisk, disclaimer, but it mimics that. And there's another version slightly similar with not so many words on. It says 128. It is 128, but it does not record at U3 class. And to be precise, it's class 10 or 11, which is that 10 or 11 megabits per second, which would have been fine for your cameras use if you're just doing single shots and then you're reframing, fine. But if you're doing the faster shots like I do, I take pictures of aircraft and stuff like that, so I need to make sure I get a burst of shots and get the right one, the right angle, that kind. So you're looking for quality, but unfortunately that is not the case with these ones. So that's it. Any comments, put them in below. Have you had any experience of buying sticks like this with systems already on them? We do worry about whether something is trying to spy on where. I mean, it probably isn't. And yes, you should always format the item in Windows before you even use it. It just makes sense. But I like to dig around and see if there's anything on them. And I found one of them had an Android system on it. So clearly they were recycling. Okay, I hope you found that useful. Please give us a like. I don't get many. And please subscribe. I've got some nice videos coming along in the future. I've rambled on a bit on this one, but it's quite an important topic if you're into saving your memories.